Hello and welcome everyone. This is week 6 of the Collegiate Chess League Spring 2026 season. We've got an exciting Division 1 matchup here today. This is a rescheduled match between SRM IST from India and University of Missouri Columbia, also known as Mizzou, who just won the national championship this last weekend. We've got games underway here, ladies and gentlemen, so let's get right into it. We're perhaps a little late, which is my mistake, of course. But, I just figured let's watch these teams because Mizzou's the national champions and SRM IST, I'm not sure if we've had them on broadcast before. They are the 3-time India College Chess Champions, so that's very exciting for them. And yeah, they are also competing in the India College Chess Championship playoffs, which are underway this week as well. So lots of college chess being played, not to mention there's also going to be the U.S. College Rapid and Blitz Championships this weekend. So like I said, tons of college chess going on right now. Very blessed to be watching. What's up, Askia? What's up, Krishna? Good to see you both in the chat. Here we've got Aryantari, probably the most famous college chess player out there, playing up against Blitz King, which is Srihari L.R., not to be confused with Srihari L. So Aryantari is not even board 1 today. He is board 2 behind his teammate, Mahel Boyer. Yeah, Srihari left and Srihari left right. That's exactly right. So here's the top boards here. King of the Nil. Nice play on words there. That is Mahel Boyer. Top board for Mizzou. 3,100 plus is the rating. And his opponent is the board 4 from India. Losing experience, that is Srihari L. So keep an eye out for both the left and the right for the Sriharis. They've got the Srihari duo on boards 3 and 4 from India. But let's check in with India's top board. Here they have Grandmaster Artoon. If you thought 3,100 plus was good, Artoon is 3,214. Pranesh. What's up, Physic? Good to see you. And yes, we should be expecting Mizzou to be on broadcast again this weekend, this Saturday, which will be the last week of the Collegiate Chess League regular season before playoffs start. Yeah, I guess this is the best team in America versus the best team in India. So we've got India versus US right now, right here, live, before our very own eyes. Very cool. Thank you, Physic. All right, so Bishop is under threat right now. Strong rook for white. But very low on time. This is Daffodil chess. That is Amilal. And there goes the bishop with the mate threat, but there goes this bishop. So this is going to be a dead even game. So that's a good result for Mizzou. They're board 4, getting a draw. Of course, Artoon is going to try and press the clock, but there is that 2-second increment. With the rook on h1, the king is stuck defending the h-pawn, but that also means the rook is stuck on the h-file. So we just see some shuffling. Let's check in with this last board that we haven't looked at yet. Here's Luca versus nightmare style. That is Avinash Ramesh, board 2 from India. So looks like Luca with the white pieces down a little bit on time, currently in check. This bishop and knight boxing out some of these squares for the king. King's going to have to go down. And this pawn looks like it's dropping, but the f pawn is dropped. And now look at this g pawn for Luca. This pawn is 3 squares away. So the king is making sure that he is around just in time. Now the bishop was hanging but is now defended by that g-pawn. So the pawn is now only 2 squares away, but the king is perfectly placed here. How to make progress? It's not going to be clear. Uncle Jesse with the 10 stream streak. Very nice. Okay, so the bishop has to come back, and that g-pawn is snagged by black. So black is actually a little bit farther away from the... I guess it's tied in pawns, 2 versus 2. But white has the pass pawn in the center here. But black can create perhaps a pass pawn of their own. Actually, it's not so easy. Yeah, this knight is going to trade off. This pawn is going to be hit. This pawn, so white's going to be up a pawn. But yeah, again, this is also going to be just a draw. Yeah, Artoon drew. Let's check in with Tari again. This is a bit more imbalanced here. So this is opposite color, no, not opposite, but this is the same color bishops, but white is down a pawn. Black has this D pawn in the middle. Both queens and rooks just in an absolute stare down right now. Yeah, Krishna, that'd be cool. They're very strong. Mostly grandmasters here competing. So let's give Amilal his draw against Artoon. Very good start for the Mizzou team, getting points on the board against their strongest player. And Aryan is looking good as well. Luca and Avinash also drew. So the bottom boards getting their points in against the top boards from India. So Mizzou, they're feeling great. They're coming off their championship win from the President's Cup last weekend. Here we could see this trade down. The trades should be in favor for Aryan. Aryan's also much ahead on the clock, over a minute. But it's even worse for Aryan's teammate, though. We have Mihail Boyer down to 6 seconds to a minute and 6 for Srihari L. But position is relatively equal. White just snagged the pawn. Black can snag this pawn. Okay, they take the H pawn first. This pawn is now hanging. If you push it, maybe it's not so easy to defend. So yeah, let's keep an eye on Aryan's game. Aryan's actually pushing for the win, so let's see if he can do that. Black has their pawns all split up here, but the extra pawn is going to be big. So Aryan's saying, let's trade queens off. Let's play this king and pawn endgame. Feeling pretty good about that. And actually, he can force that queen trade now with this last move, queen here. So yeah, queen f6 is played. King's trying to step up, but we're going to trade queens here. And now Aryan's going to flex his king and pawn endgame skills, this technique. I'm expecting king e6, just keeping the king out of d5. Pawn's going to push, and now white will surely run out of pawn pushes. This king's going to have to move, and now this king's going to be able to step on up. So we could see resigns here as well. 1 second, he's playing on. Pawn check. King over. King's going to have to go down. King's going to walk up. So we do see the resignation there. And Mihail Boyer also gets a resignation. This game was equal, but then we had a huge blunder here from white. Oh, wait. Okay. Missed the first time, but not the second time. Huge skewer there. So that's actually an amazing round from the Mizzou team, leading 3-1 after that first round. So only 2 draws from SRM IST, and from their top 2 boards, Mizzou's top 2 boards getting the job done, both getting dubs. And Mizzou, they're comfortably in the lead after round 1. So plenty of rounds left for India to come back, but this Mizzou team, they're looking like they're already in playoff shape. Definitely were in shape over the board, getting the national championship. So their confidence is very high. That being said, we've seen Mizzou choke actually a few leads before. I forgot who they lost to. Maybe it was Dallas. What's up, Oscar Chess? Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. We're watching the Collegiate Chess League. This is the second to last week of the regular season, or as some would say, the penultimate week, which I always thought was kind of a weird word. Why not call it pre-ultimate? It's the same number of letters. Just made more sense to me. Anyways, unfortunately, I guess I'm not going to be rewriting the English language anytime soon, but just food for thought, I guess. Anyways, round 2 underway. Enough about me and my understanding of English. Almost last, or the second to last. I don't know. I like pre-ultimate. When I first heard about penultimate, I was like, that's a made-up word, right? No one actually says penultimate. Because, pre-ultimate is like right there. I'm just saying. All right. Round 2. This is Amilal versus Avinash. And we've got Tari starting his game with the white pieces. We've got a Karo Khan here. Active queen already for Aryan. Ready to castle. Kingside. Knight here, questioning the bishop. Aryan says, you want the bishop pair? Go ahead. I'm going to be castled already. And black, they've got some work to do here. Not as much development. Both knights out for white. This pawn maybe helping reinforce the center, keeping things a little bit closed. You think penultimate sounds better? Okay. That's fair. Okay, h4 from Aryan. h5. Losing experience. This is Srihari L. The board 4. All right, knight hits the queen, so the queen steps back. This frees up some dark squares for some of these pieces. We could see the knight trying to get a trade here. Queen develops with pressure on the b pawn, so that's going to make it a little bit more difficult for the bishop to come out and play. That being said, the bishop can still move, even with the tempo. Invite that. The problem is this knight's hanging, but I was going to say we could try to get the b pawn back. Another problem with that is, well, if the queen stays on the diagonal somehow, this rook could never take because the rook in the corner will be hanging. And if you go rook ab1, you could see the a pawn fall. It could be worth the activity of the rook, but I suspect we'll see the knight move first, right? And now, after knight takes, if bishop takes, queen takes, we could try that rook b1 idea, but there would be queen c3 because our knight's no longer covering c3. And there's also no pawn there. Anyhow, the knight trade was declined. So this bishop's still a little short on squares. We could see bishop e3, and that's exactly what we see. So the invitation on b2 is there. But apparently the best move is actually knight f5. Queen takes. There is rook fb1. If queen c3, there'd be something like bishop d4 probably. But Srihari L finds the best move, knight f5, forking the queen and the bishop. So we do see the queens are traded off, as well as a bishop and a knight. So it's 2 knights versus 2 bishops. We've got some isolated, well, these aren't isolated, but doubled pawns for both sides, but blacks are isolated. So you could argue there's a slight advantage for white's pawn structure because these pawns are weak, but the bishop pair has some serious strength to them, not to be underestimated, sure. So, okay, rook gets hit by the bishop, so it goes to the open c file, and now the king opts to not castle, and that's going to leave this pawn weak. So now we see one of the bishops is traded off for one of the knights, and now Tari has triple isolated pawns. Surely now advantage for black. Now, that being said, we could try and force one of these tripled pawns off, but no. Black connects the pawn chain and blocks their pawn from pushing. So I also notice Tari, though, is setting up some dark square blockade. All these pieces on dark squares, just this G pawn, which unfortunately cannot move, but I'm sure Tari is not going to lose sleep over the G pawn. We see the rook now contesting the C file. Very important for these rooks to be active. So I'm expecting rook A to C1 here from Tari, just doubling up. I think the problem is black's going to trade off one set of rooks. After rook recaptures, you're going to see black's going to bring the second rook over, and that could cause issues. So Tari doesn't want to trade off all the rooks. He leaves his rook on c3, just guarded by the b pawn. So Srihari gladly trades off one pair of rooks, and now this bishop comes into c4. This knight is going to have to try and combat the bishop. You could argue bad bishop, good knight, because of the color complex. So we'll see if Srihari decides to trade. It seems that Tari is okay with this, and if you don't take this knight, knight's going to ask the bishop a question or potentially hop into b4 for an outpost. But yeah, relatively even position here. At some point, this pawn is going to need some protection from the king. And then I'm thinking Tari's going to try and activate the rook on the h file. So the king is here in time to c2, just keeping this rook out. And if the rook ever tries to attack this pawn, maybe we'll see the king stepping up. And that's exactly right. And this should probably be a draw. And yeah, we're probably walking into a repetition here. No. Tari is using 1 second to bring the rook over, and now we see the king tucked to the a file. Okay, so Tari says, play on. I'm here to play and win. So rook takes away that square from this rook. Rook might have to go super passive, or maybe we'll see this pawn push. Okay, so the rook does go passive. Now the king wants to come in and have a little fun. So this king is tied down to this pawn. Tari is saying he's going to push for the advantage. And why not? I mean, he is the high-rated player. He's up against the international master. We could see the king stepping up to b4. We could see the a-pawn push, perhaps. We could see the rook coming back to the f-file. I think it makes a lot of sense. Rook h1 and g4. I think that that's one of the only plans that white might have to try to activate the rook and try to stir up some trouble with these triple isolated pawns. Okay, so the king comes back to the defense. This guy steps back. Is he trying to trade this off? I don't think so. Maybe he'll go here now. Okay, that's what this was. It was attacking the rook. King stepping up. This rook is going to come back. I'm expecting rook h1, g4 at some point. So let's take a look at some of the other games. This game is hitting a little bit of a standstill, but Tari's trying to push. Let's check on the Mizzou top board. Hey, Speed Chess, good to see you. Okay, so Mihail Boyer, he's won a pawn. All 8 minor pieces still on the board. We did have a queen trade on d1, it seems, so white's not going to castle. Oscar, thank you for appreciating Gerber. Always appreciate that guy. Okay, b4, I like this move. It's really disconnecting the support that the c pawn could have had from a pawn chain. So this pawn is hanging. Bishop develops here, so not putting the bishop under the fire of the rook, allowing for a potential sacrifice. So just simply going to e7. Pawn a3, preparing for b4. And black says, you can't play b4 if I play b4. And so white's not taking, inviting the knight to recapture. Instead, saving the knight. Looking at maybe b6, also just simply defending the c-pawn more directly. Okay, we have a result. Artoon takes down Luca. So Artoon only getting a draw in that first round, answers back. So we have a rook lift on the king side there. Look at that. Rook on g3, king on f8 for Luca. We're trading here. Luca's pushing that a pawn. Queen's stepping in, and the king has to abandon ship. So this is some next level chess. I've been told that you're supposed to castle. Here, neither side castles. And look at this. This rook is going to get trapped. So, okay. Knight takes. And I don't know what happens if pawn takes. I guess the queen's just taking with check. Oh, and that's forking the rook too. Okay, so the queen saves itself. Knight comes back now. Doesn't want to be taken here. There goes the exchange. Queen comes in with check. So white's up in exchange here. And that's a free piece. My goodness. So yeah, Luca getting caught by Artoon. So Pranesh answering back, trying to get their team going back in it. They're only down by 1 now. And here we have Amilal maybe facing some trouble and some time pressure against Avinash, the board 2. So Avinash is pushing with black, picks up this pawn, picks up the second pawn. It's technically even pawns, but this king is stuck. Pawn push, trying to make some space maybe for the knight. This pawn is just a monster right here. Both sides, less than 30 seconds. Rook behind the pawn. Okay, it's Amilal with black that's pushing. I was seeing Nightmare. Avinash was up a pawn at some point, but of course, black is doing well. So grabs another pawn. It's 3 versus 2 now. There's one pawn check. This is a potential problem. Pawn push, we don't have to take because our rook is just going to be in time to guard the back rank. And there's this check as well. Okay. And just not even taking the pawn, allowing the king to get out of the pin. Attacking the pin knight first. Now we can take the pawn. Beautiful stuff here. Beautiful from Amilal. Okay, look at this move. This is pinning that pawn. And now the king is in time to escape. There's a check now. Okay, so not giving up. It is 3 versus 1. Very low on time. Aryan and Srihari L drew. So Aryan is held to a draw by the Indian board 4. This game is also looking drawn now. So what happened? Avinash is doing well to defend. So I missed a couple. So it looked like it was 3 versus 1. There goes one pawn. There goes second pawn. Oh, but it's at the cost of the knight. Okay, so bishop versus knight. Oh boy. This was a huge fork missed. Oh my god, and he walks right back into it. That's ridiculous. What on earth did we just see? That was a huge blunder from India. Bishop f3. I mean, he walked into that twice. So Amilal maybe getting a little lucky there with the black pieces. Okay. So now we have Mihail up against Srihari LR, the Blitz King. Both sides very low on time, less than 15 seconds. Oh my god, and it's not even refreshing. Please. Okay, Blitz King is up a bishop. Where'd that bishop go? Oh, check. Oh, and got forked. Was too concerned about the pawns and this bishop reroute. This rook is just eating up everything. There's a queen on the board, folks. He's trying for a stalemate, but it was not to be. The king had too many squares to go to, so he resigns. All right, so black did well here. That's Blitz King, so Srihari LR gets on the board. So SRM IST, they got beat that first round 3-1 with only 2 draws, but they answer right back with 2 wins of their own from Pranesh and Srihari LR, and they also got a draw. So that gives them 1 point back going into the second half. Thanks, Jason. Gergely Cantor, he plays for UT Dallas, so he is not playing today. He will be playing this weekend in week 6, and I'm fairly confident they've already clinched playoffs as well. So expect to see more from Cantor later. All right, so we're waiting for round 3 to begin. This will be the second half of the match. Strong start from Mizzou, but good response from SRM IST. They're only down by 1. They're very much still in it. This is a close matchup here. So now we've got round 3 underway. Blitz King bringing out the knight, going for a fianchetto. And we have b5 from Omilal. Omilal is from Mongolia. This is his first semester in the U.S. We interviewed him actually after, I think, their first round earlier this season. All right, and now this is a big one here. We've got Aryan versus Artoon, and they've played each other 11 times already, it seems. So probably a handful of times through the CCL. But Aryan has the heads-up lead, 8-3 over Artoon, 0 draws. That being said, Artoon, about 200 elo, higher rated, at least in chess.com Blitz. I'd be curious about their FIDE ratings. Maybe someone in chat can pull it up. I would expect Aryan Tari to be a slightly higher rated player, but Artoon obviously very strong as well. So 2 very strong grandmasters, and this is a round 3 matchup, so not even top boards versus top boards, although Aryan probably is a top board by classical rating. But yeah, bishop e3, looking to trade bishops there, maybe damage the pawn structure. So of course we see the bishops traded. The only other option was to step back, but trading queen on e3 now and f5. So perhaps threatening f4, trying to get this pesky pawn, kind of like a thorn on the king side. Also looking for a trade. If pawn takes, Black has 3 pieces ready to recapture. We might see the knight taking with a tempo on the queen, and if you don't want to move your queen, well, you're going to have to pay up a bishop. So, nice move here from Artun. Aryan now thinking how to respond to this, because f4 is kind of annoying. After f4, you could see queen f3 to prevent f3, but that's not very pleasant. So white might consider pushing their f-pawn in this situation. But a pawn on f4 after pawn takes, that might look like kind of a awkward pawn. And this does also weaken the king side when you push these pawns. f3, and you're not really taking back with the pawn, stranding yourself with an isolated pawn. Will the match of UT Dallas be streamed? I believe it depends on... I'm trying to stream Mizzou versus Slew because that's a very big rivalry match. They're happening at the same time. So I'll have to ask if one of the two teams will be willing to reschedule their match or postpone by an hour so that I can watch both of them. So UT Dallas will be playing Texas Tech. Okay, we do see f4. So Tari definitely didn't feel very comfortable. Look at the clock usage there, down to 250 compared to 440. And yeah, Tari he figured f4 was the best they could figure out for that amount of time. And yeah, Artun has been ready. He's got a 2-minute advantage here in a 5-minute blitz game. So yeah, knight b4, attacking that bishop. If he gives a check, he's going to get forked. The funny thing, though, is he can bring the bishop back, and the pawn can't take the knight because it's pinned to the king. And if you attack the bishop again, well, guess what? Your knight's hanging. Anyways, Tari doesn't care about the bishop pair. He just lets that capture happen. He brings his other rook in, and now he's getting skewered. And now he might get pinned. I was going to say bishop here might be an annoying pin, but this is even stronger. So that's one of the benefits of playing a5, so that your rook can support a bishop on a6. After c4, there was no d5. That might have been a little weakening. Maybe just b3 there. I'm not entirely sure. But Artun says, you know what? We've induced c4. Mission accomplished. I'm going to come back around the other way. He's going to keep Aryan guessing. So about a 2.5-minute advantage for Artun. It's going to be really interesting to see how Aryan can adapt to the time pressure if he's got that speed. Definitely know he's a fast player, but this is some potentially concerning time management here in a blitz game. I mean, down to 1:45 against 4.5 minutes from Artun. This is definitely the biggest mismatch in time here. And there's another one, very similar situation. This actually might even be worse. Oh man, in this position, what went wrong? Luca lost in that previous round. Started with a strong draw against the board too, but it's been looking bad since then. So yeah, not good chess right here, with the knight getting hit. Knight takes, hitting the queen, but also opening up the bishops on this diagonal. There's a check. King goes uncastled. There goes another pawn. There's a fork. There's an exchange. Oh my goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, Luca is getting his salad tossed right now. He's getting absolutely wrecked. And the time, it's a 3-minute advantage. This could be a huge match swing for the India team if Artun can also break through Aryan's defenses. Right now, Aryan is just down on time, but he's holding his own in the position. Let's take a look at some of the lower board matchups. Here we've got Mizzou's board 4, Amilal, and he is also not looking great against Blitz King. Must have been the win. What's up, Bob? Who's the best player in the league? I would argue it's Aryan Tari, but his rating isn't as high as his teammates Mahel, who is playing right here. That being said, our tune is 3,200, so our tune might be highest in blitz. All right, so there's a strong check threat here, and it's white to move. So king just steps aside, saying, go ahead, be my guest. You're welcome. The door is open if you want. So very interestingly, the king is prepared to run. Queen check, king here. The queen's attacked by the rook now, so the king would have to step up back because this bishop's defending this pawn. And ideally, you would love to get something to control e7. The problem is there's really no way to do that. All these squares are covered right now. Even you've got two rooks. This bishop doesn't want to take the knight because we're not able to get in anymore. So maybe the move was the check and then take. Okay, the computer's saying the best move was bishop takes d4. I mean, ridiculous, right? Probably what it is, you're distracting this bishop from control over c7. So my idea, after seeing the engine recommend this, bishop takes, queen check, king here, then take the knight. Queen takes, and now we get into c7, and we're threatening mate. My goodness, what a move that would have been. So instead we see simply a takes or b takes a5, maybe clearing one extra square for this bishop to come in, but that's going to give black the time to play g6. Whereas bishop takes is a much more threatening move. But okay, queen back, and now this is a swing for black. The move was knight to f4, hitting that queen yet again. Instead, we see the queen hopping out with a check. Now we see the queen trying to block, but now the knight's a little late to f4. There's a threat of a fork, but this queen trade maybe helps both sides become a little safer. This pawn structure is really bad for white, actually. Whoa, white says, give me that pawn because my bishop is going to help this pawn, and you can go ahead and take that exchange if you really want it. But watch out, because I've got some extra pawns here. So 2-pawn advantage for Mihail. Might lose an exchange. That's going to even the material out, technically. But white's feeling pretty confident with those 2 outside pass pawns. Okay, bishop gets hit all the way back. Black does say, I will take that exchange. White's probably going to recapture. Probably you don't want to give a check. Maybe, what are we thinking about? Why not just take the knight? You've got 5 seconds. Come on. Come on, Mihail. 3 seconds now. Takes with the bishop. Only other way was with the rook. Yeah, we've got a full-on time scramble here. Rook's looking for a trade. Takes, and now the rook can get active. Computer did not like that. Yeah, this pawn that was so valuable, it's getting lost by the wayside. So this is starting to look really good for India because those pawns did not come to fruition. It's just an exchange now for a pawn for black. So that's looking really good for Avinash. And only 1 second. I mean, yeah, there goes the second pawn. Mihail's going to lose this game. Beautiful move here. Check. There goes this pawn. Okay. Tari and Artun drew. Black won this game by resignation. Let's check in here with Srihari LR and Amilal. So Srihari LR, 2 seconds, 1 second. King is checked by the pawn and forked. Pawn takes knight with check. It's a rook versus 2 knights. But this knight is pinned. So I think white's going to win this one, but very low on time, less than 10 seconds. Queen is in. Watch out for some checks. 1 second. He does take the knight. King back. There's going to be another check. Potentially. There's a check here. Check by the knight. 1 second. He sacks the exchange, hitting the queen. So now take with queen or take with pawn. Takes with the queen. 1 second. Looking for a queen trade. There's a queen check to pick up the pawn. He's going after the b pawn. But this pawn is really strong. Okay, there's the fork. A very fancy way to take the g pawn, perhaps. Probably going to take it. Doesn't take it. Looking for perpetual? Wow. Repetition there. So a draw. Okay, let's give Tari his draw. So he goes to 2. Artun also goes to 2. We had Srihari LR and Amilal getting a draw. Lots of draws. Draws are good for Mizzou, but Avinash got his first win. So actually it's just dead even now between these two teams. And here, India is looking for their first lead of the match against none other than Luka, who's down to his last second there. And there's checkmate on the board. Luka's lost 2 in a row now. And that's a really pretty bishop mate. So, yeah. Yeah, here pawn takes, leaving the bishop here. But the rook infiltrates. Yeah, trading off here. Bishop coming in, thread of mate, king on the run. Queen does infiltrate. But here it's back to equal. Queen trade declined, but then the queen enters with check, and now we have the new mate threat. And this time the rook isn't getting bullied on the e-file. So really nice switch up here from Srihari L. Just rerouting the queen. It's all about the king safety. So now Luka's trying to create some threats, but then there's check, 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 and mate. So well done from India. They're taking their first lead of the match. So we've seen this time and time again. Mizzou, they look good, and then things just fall apart in the end. But that being said, it's not over until it's over. Mizzou's got this 4th round left to turn things back around. But India, they're looking to close this one out and get the dub. So they only need 2 more points to win 8.5. So if they draw this round equal, then they'll win. Mizzou is 1 point behind, so they need the comeback. So here we've got the top 2 boards. Mihail Boyer versus Pranesh Artun. Let's check in with the board 2s. We've got Aryan Tari versus Avinash. Tari has launched the A-pawn, and he started with it. So B3, going for an early fianchetto. And that pawn gets into A3. So that is a thorn in the side. Bishop has to come back home. And yeah, Tari, he defended down a huge chunk of time against Artun. So he's hanging with the time pressure. Luka on board 4. This would be a good time as any for Luka to bounce back after having 2 losses in a row. He has the least amount of points. Only a draw. And he is up. This is wait. Okay, this is the board 3 matchup. So yeah. Luka's playing against Srihari LR, Blitzkrieg. And Luka's got the white pieces, and it looks like there was maybe a gambit. So yeah, Luka right now, he's holding on to that extra pawn. So we'll see if he can hold on to this. All right, and then the last board 4 here, we've got Amilal from Mizzou playing against Srihari L. So yeah, very interesting position. H pawn launched from Srihari. And yeah, pawn here, that's certainly grabbable. Maybe contemplating, yeah, knight to f2, defending the rook on h1. Very awkward situation here. If takes, you could trade rooks there, so no kingside castling for either side. But Srihari thinking a little bit here, giving some time back. Ace Duckfish, hey Bob. How's it going? All right, where do we watch? I feel like people like Orientari. Okay, this a pawn got picked off, so the knight on c5 blocking the bishop's defense. Pawn push, pawn takes. So very important not to take with the bishop, because knight takes and we take. Now our bishop's hanging. Knight takes with check. So pawn takes here. This knight hopping in. So Tari has given up 2 pawns and frankly looks behind in development. But there are some tactical tricks here. I was thinking you could give up your knight to win the bishop, but the problem is you're down 2 pawns. So you would be simplifying and still be down a pawn, which is not ideal. So Tari, he's giving himself some work cut out here. b4 now, which protects the bishop and directly questions the knight. So we're not going to see any knight tricks, just probably going to hop back somewhere. And then the bishop, well, bishop's kind of stuck. This knight's also kind of stuck. Computer here likes to move knight d4. That's a nice one. Yeah, leaving the knight hanging. If knight takes, queen takes, and what are you doing? You can bring your knight out and block, but that's going to drop this. And if takes, this bishop develops. So not falling for this. Queen steps back to d1. That being said, now there's knight takes, queen takes, and you could still bring the queen into d4. So black can still get what they want. It's just going to cost them a move. But I do like that idea. And so Tari's got some chances. He's down 2 pawns to nothing, but good compensation. He's got some tricks here. Just very awkward piece placement for white. So grabbing those pawns came at a cost. Okay, white doesn't go for the trade. Instead just saves the knight. This allows bishop takes. I was thinking maybe black has this move b5 at some point. White just castles, says get me out of here. Very fair. This pawn is hanging as well with this last move, and so black does decide to take it. And now the computer likes knight takes d4, which I don't fully understand, to be honest. But okay. Looks like knight takes, queen takes, and wanted queen b4, and maybe the queen gets trapped. Or actually, no. Rooks are down. Well, the knight was here. Okay, never mind. Ignore me. Tari gets 1 pawn back, and the computer likes his position now. Probably because these pawns are so bad. So, down a pawn, but it's a bad pawn. All right, let's check in with the other games. Let's check on the top boards. Oh my word. Look at this. Our tune is cooking. Rook takes, queen takes, queen takes. Queen saves itself. Queen trade offered, declined. There goes a pawn. Bishop here, and now the queen's getting attacked, so the queen goes here. King steps up, getting out of this back rank check. Pawn push, queen here, lining up, pinning this bishop, but queen takes, hits the rook. And the queen is defending the rook, so can't take the bishop. So that is 3 whole pawns advantage white. So all white has to do is just trade the stuff down. And that's a huge advantage for India. So SRM IST, they only need 2 points. They're going to get one of them right here on the top board. So it's very much on the Mizzou team to come back on the other board. So let's check back in with Luca. Luca's still looking good. He's held on to that extra pawn that was gambited. And he's up on time. So Luca really needs to come back for his team. Let's check in with the bottom boards. Board 4s. This is looking good for India too. So Amilal really needs a comeback. Okay, this was a miss from Black. So Black had a stronger move, just developing the knight to f6 or even knight e5, hitting the queen. Instead, the queen steps in. This is a very logical move, just boxing the king out, hitting the rook, but the rook is now invited to a very nice active b file. So this game is still close. And let's check back in with Aryan Tari. So Aryan also trying to push things on his side. So Avinash castled, push g3. So both sides are castled now. This bishop is under question now by the queen. Wow, interestingly, queen d2 is a move. It's kind of counterintuitive. You're lining yourself up in a pen, but then there would be this check. So queen steps up to defend the bishop, but now the problem is the a pawn is falling. So Tari can go ahead and snag that a pawn, and that's an active rook on the second. And no, instead he goes bishop e6, and now the b pawn is hanging. The a pawn is still hanging. And Tari, again, just so low on time, down to 20 seconds. Less than 20 seconds here. He saves his b pawn. The white rook activates. Gotta watch out for back rank issues. That b pawn is not defended by that rook. This is a fake defender. All right, pawn push, but is that really helping anything? I mean, look at this queen here. Can we go ahead and sack? Is this really a suitable defense? And Avinash has over 2 minutes to figure this out. Doesn't go for any tactics. Doesn't go for the queen in. Bishop now looking for the trade. Bishop here, sort of attacking the rook, but not really, because it's kind of pinned. Pawn pushing forward. Bishop sacrifice. And now what? The rook's coming in? I don't know. We're just going after the pinned bishop. But rook takes, hitting the queen. Queen steps up. Less than 5 seconds for Tari. Artun did get the win, so it's match point for SRM IST. There goes that bishop. Less than 10 seconds. Oh, this is a huge blunder. The idea is queen takes, there's rook here, but the problem is e6 check was winning. Oh, Avinash trying to play against Tari's time pressure, misses it, and now the e-pawn drops. That's a huge chance for Mizzou. Rook takes, queen takes, but hold on, folks. There's a d-pawn on the loose. That d-pawn is so close to promoting. This is actually so huge for Mizzou. That was a huge miss from Avinash. 2 seconds, though. Aryan Tari might flag. Queen check. A loose king here is going to be a huge potential for this queen here. So that's what Avinash is going after, is this loose king. And Tari's living off increment. 3 seconds here. They might draw. No, Tari might know the match situation. Draws are good for India, because they can draw their way to victory. Queen block. No trade of queens. This is a pawn that can be grabbed, but the problem is the D pawn is going to push. This black king now. Black queen is encouraging that pawn. There goes the pawn. D2 now. And now white's going to hope for some sort of perpetual, or the queen's going to have to get to D1 after a check, but that's not easy. So is there perpetual is the question. There's no queen block, because then the pawn falls. Oh, wait. Eval bar is freaking out. check. 6 seconds for Tari. Oh my god. The board fours are also in a complete time scramble. White is better because there's a mate threat. This is huge for Mizzou. Rook here. Now queen h8. Check. Oh, and it's mate. Wait, it's not mate. Hold on, it's very close to mate. What's going on? Queen h7, king back. The move is c4, apparently. Or will he draw? No, he goes for the queen trade, but that's equal. That could be good for India, but he declined the queen trade. They don't know what's good for them. Rook is hit. Rook comes back. This is a dead even game again. Aryan Tari and Avinash drew. So now any draw for India wins. Mizzou has to win out. And this is looking more and more equal. Can Amilal find a miracle here? 2 pawns and a knight versus 2 pawns and a knight. This could be the match. How's Luca even doing? Luca is winning. He's going to find mate very quickly here. Queen check and mate next. So Luca did his part. Can Amilal bring it back? Maybe he snags this outside pawn. This is a passed pawn. Maybe looking to trade. No, this is just a draw. This is going to be a win for India. Unless Srihari L like disconnects or flags or something. So let's give Luca his point. He bounces back in the end. It might be a little too late. Aryan Tari gets a draw against Avinash. 8-7 right now. 1 point advantage for India. Oh my god, a huge blunder. Amilal is forcing overtime, putting the team on his back. Oh my word. And look at the knight saving the pawn. Oh my word. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to overtime. Amilal clutch. Right when his team needs it. He's leading his team with 3 points out of 4. Same as Pranesh. On demand. Getting that dub from an equal position. Time scramble. Srihari L not able to hold on and defend. Letting that pawn push through and winning the knight. Holy smokes, folks. We're going to overtime. So we're going to see that same round pairing, but with swapped colors. And instead of 5+2, they're going to play 3+2. So 2 minutes less per person. It's going to be a faster blitz. And yeah. If it's still tied 10-10, they're gonna repeat that process, but with 1+2 bullet, which is Uncle Jesse's favorite bullet. Actually, that's not true. She likes 2+1, I think. This is 1+2. It's kind of similar. Anyways, wow. I mean, I'm impressed. SRM IST so close. But very big wins from Luca and Amilal, of course. And Tari getting a draw was also instrumental for that. So either team could have won. Now we're settling things in round 5. Here we've got the 4 knights game and a potential gambit here. Knight takes e4, declined. So what would have happened after knight takes e4? Probably you've like queen e2 or something. I don't know. Anyhow. All right. Pawn h6, not allowing for that bishop to pin the knight. And we see a trade in the queen stepping up. And now g3, the bishop wants to come fianchetto on the king side. Rook to d8, preparing for d5. These are the board ones. Artun won with the white pieces. Now Mihail has a chance. And look at that. G4, G5. That is ridiculous. G4 and you're allowing bishop takes? Wait, no, the pawn was not pushed yet. Now the pawn is pushed. Here, and now e takes, but then there's the queen is hanging. Wow, and if pawn takes, bishop takes with a skewer. This is some fighting chess here. Queen saved itself. Queen steps out of this pin, defends the e-pawn. And now h5, keeping things closed in front of this king. But yeah, black is ahead in development. They've already castled. And with this move h5, it's going to be very difficult for white to try and open things up further. So we still have to develop this piece, get castled. White has some progress that they need to make. Artoon, very comfortable on the time, has been playing lightning fast this whole match. It's been part of his success. All right, let's check in with the board twos. We've got a rematch between Tari and Avinash. This game, Tari gave up 2 pawns and came back with the activity, and it was held to a draw. Now, Tari has a chance with the white pieces. So, the top boards for Mizzou now with white, this could be a big opportunity for them. Let's check in on the bottom boards here. We've got Amilal, who had that insane clutch to bring it back to even. Now he's got the black pieces. This is a pin. This pawn push could prove very annoying. So I'm liking Amilal's position here with this last move. There's a rook as well. So the queen steps up, trying to prevent this pawn from pushing. But there is potential for bishop f5, which skewers the queen and the knight. So the knight comes back, connecting. Now the bishop hits the queen. We're going to see this queen move somewhere. These really are the only 2 options. So the queen steps up, can get hit again. That would be an interesting repetition, but I think Amilal should push. I'm worried about Mihail. Mihail is meeting his match. I mean, under a minute already for Mihail, and Artoon over 2.5 minutes. So they've traded queens though. So this king, despite pushing the G pawn, still castled kingside. And with the queens off, the king safety is less of a concern, but obviously still an issue. And Artoon is just feeling very comfortable right now with this time advantage. All right, so the knights are kind of facing each other. This rook now infiltrating. This is a lot of potential here for Artoon to make some progress here. Rook's doubled now. You can threaten to trade off a rook, but you can also threaten to take, and then infiltrate on this second rank, which I think is probably his plan. So, white maybe... Nope. Decides to defend the rook with the other rook. Yeah, I think if king f1, you're dealing with some pretty big issues here, I think. So, yeah. Pawn to a3. So that pawn was hanging. Instead, Artoon decides to toss that a pawn, damage white's pawns. Now hits the bishop. I'm expecting bishop a4, and then the a pawns are dropping. And Mihail has no time. 10 seconds to 2:15 is ridiculous. And there's only 2-second increment. That's also the problem with the blitz time control. So going from 5 minutes to 3 minutes, you have 2 less minutes than you're used to. All right, rook d1 here. Question to the rook. The rook says, I'm going to stay on that second rank. But white says, I'm going to infiltrate yours and see how you like it. So the king steps over, defending the knight. 2 seconds. I mean, you got to move. You got to move, man. Bishop gets hit. I thought that was a fork, but okay, the rook's defending. Rook steps here. Rook steps up, hitting the pawn. King can step up too. 3 seconds from Mihail. Artun is trying to lead his team to victory here. He's already got 1 point. Pawn push. This is a gambit. Okay. Clears up this pawn for the bishop. Bishop's offering a trade. We do see one trade. Knight trying to get a second trade, and the threat is to pin the knight to the rook, or with the rook. Knight saves itself. Check. I thought we'd take the c pawn maybe. Don't go here and get mated. Well, I guess the knight's there. Never mind. 4 seconds. 3. Okay, forking the pawns. Pawns pushing. Black's going to try to weave some sort of mating net. Knight is hit. What? No way. Artun just blundered a fork. That's ridiculous. With a minute 40, I mean, come on. He's playing for time with increment. This is unreal. I mean, unreal. Oh my god, there's only one move. Rook f2, he finds it. That's crazy too. Check and block. I mean, he's going to win with the outside h-pawn. That's insane. That's exactly what Mizzou needed. Mihail playing with fire, getting his clock so low, and it baits Artun into throwing. What a strategy. And Amilal won on board 4. Let's check in with Tari. Okay, it's opposite color bishops, but advantage white. This is a very strong rook. And this king could be walking in very, very quickly. Yes. Strong advantage for Tari. So Mizzou, on the brink of death, they owe Amilal a lot of credit. Leading his team on board 4, no less. So yeah, this Artun blunders a whole knight, completely unnecessary, and now is down a queen, and he's going to play this out till checkmate. Luca won his game. Then resigns. Okay, so yeah, Mizzou wins. This is the last game left. We'll see if Aryan Tari can finish off the Mizzou sweep here in 3+2, and he should. We're gonna see Avinash resigning here very soon. So, yeah, very close match. I mean, Mizzou started off very strong, of course, 3-1, but time and time again, we've seen this Mizzou team struggle. Yeah, Tari's not dropping this. This is very quickly going to be easy win here. So threatening mate, and I mean, there's nothing you can do. So check, bishop block. I mean, what a bishop. You can sack your rook. That could save the game. Nope. He says, I'm done playing. My team already lost. So there you have it. Aryan Tari improves to 3.5 out of 5. And Mizzou sweeps in overtime. 12-8 final score. Mizzou, they got to work on their second half. They get that initial lead. They're looking good. They're feeling confident. And then they let SRM IST just claw their way back. And really, it came down to that last game. Srihari L not able to defend against Amilal on board 4. So Amilal, absolute MVP today, going 4 out of 5. Tremendous score to make sure his team did not lose to SRM IST. So the national champs, Mizzou, they hold on to that lead and get the job done in overtime with a sweep. All right, thank you all for watching. Hope you had fun. That was a very close match. And I'll see you all this weekend, Saturday, the CCL will return with the final week of the regular season, week 7. So we should be seeing Mizzou back again playing St. Louis University. That'll be a fun one. And we should probably also be seeing UT Dallas versus Texas Tech. All right, stick around for the raid. Thanks again, and I will see you all hopefully this weekend. Take care.